Hey there, Dr. Avinash here. Welcome to this video on human reproduction. I'm going to explain this chapter thoroughly from your NCERT textbook only, which means you should be able to score amazing marks in your board exams as well as from your NEET perspective. So let's dive right in. Divide this chapter into 3 parts. Part 1, to be done on day number 1, would include the entire male reproductive system. Part 2 would be the female reproductive system, including the menstrual cycle, okay? And part number 3 would be everything else, which includes fertilization and post-fertilization changes. Simple. So this video is going to be part number 1, which is the intro and the male reproductive system part. Let's dive right in. Now, when we talk of human reproduction, what exactly are we looking at? Okay, some basic things that you probably already know. I'm going to mark in my notes, my textbook, so you can follow along. Okay, so humans are sexually reproducing organisms. You already know this. We give birth to young ones, which means we are viviparous. We already know this. And in the first phase of our life, before puberty, we call it the juvenile phase or the pre-reproductive phase. During this phase, the body is still growing. We are not ready for sexual reproduction. But only after puberty, the human being gains the capability of sexual reproduction. Even in that, there are multiple stages involved, multiple steps involved. Like for example, the reproductive events would include formation of gametes, which is called as gametogenesis. Of course, in males it will be sperms, in case of females it will be ovum. Then there will be transfer of sperms into the female genital tract, that will be called as insemination. The semen enters into the body of the female. The third would be fusion of this male and the female gamete. So sperm will meet the ovum in a process called as fertilization, and that would lead to formation of a zygote. Now this zygote will undergo sequential cell division and it will form a stage called as the blastocyst. This blastocyst then attaches to the uterine wall in a process called as implantation. And if implantation is successful, the embryo then starts to develop. If the embryo develops, a human embryo develops for around 266 days from the day of ovulation, or around 9 months. That is called as the gestation. And if everything goes well, then the baby comes out of the vagina in a process called as parturition. We call it the delivery of the baby. Now all these processes will happen after puberty only. Okay. Of course, there will be difference between the male and the female reproductive tract, and we are not going to discuss that now. Maybe in the third session we will talk about it. Let's today only focus on the male reproductive system. Okay. Now in male reproductive system, okay, understand this. The organs that make the sperm and the ovum, they are called as primary sex organ. So primary sex organs in case of a man would be the testes. Now important, TESTIS means we are talking about one testes, but when we write TESTES, it means we are talking about 2. So a male has a pair of testes, TES. Okay. Now the testes are going to make the sperms, right? But the sperms have to be carried out of the body. So the male of course needs some tubes. These are called as accessory ducts. And to help the sperm achieve its target of fertilization, we have some glands which contribute the secretions to the semen and external genitalia. Genitalia is the sex organs. Okay. Now in case of males, the testes starts its development inside the abdominal cavity. Okay, now get this point clear. When we are inside the uterus of our mothers, the testes actually was a part of the intra-abdominal organs. Getting it? But the testes requires around 2 to 2.5 degrees centigrade lower than the internal body temperature. That much temperature should be lower. Only then the spermatogenesis can happen. Getting it? And that's why the testes had to come out. into a pouch. That pouch is called as the scrotum. It is a muscular pouch. Okay, so it's made up of skin, other connective tissue, and it has a muscle inside it. Okay, extra point, not really important as a primary info, but good to know. The name of the muscle is called as cremaster. Okay, so this cremaster muscle is present in the scrotum. Now the question arises, if the testes was inside the abdomen, was it completely inside the abdomen like your intestine, liver, or was it outside the abdomen, outside the peritoneum? A better way would be outside the peritoneum, like the kidneys. Well, the testes is extraperitoneal. Means what? See, imagine I am drawing the abdomen. This is the abdomen. The testes were somewhere here in the posterior part of the abdominal wall. Getting it? And surrounding this, only on the anterior side was the layer of peritoneum. Getting it? So this is our peritoneum. Let this blue thing be the future developing scrotum. Okay, we have not yet developed scrotum. The baby has not yet developed scrotum. And a connection is there present between the lower end of the testes and the future scrotum. This connection is actually a fibromuscular band. A fibromuscular band called as gubernaculum. Now when the child is inside the mother's womb, testosterone comes, okay, and this testosterone causes this gubernaculum thing to contract, and as a result the testes then starts to descend, and what happens is eventually the testes comes to lie in a pouch outside the abdomen thanks to the gubernaculum. So I am still drawing the gubernaculum as a small purple thing here if I zoom in here. Getting it? And surprise, surprise, the testes is still covered on the anterior side with the peritoneum. Getting it? So the anterior part of the testes, which is still covered by peritoneum, this peritoneal covering is in the future going to form the tunica vaginalis. Simple. This thing is going to form the tunica vaginalis. Easy peasy. So don't forget the gubernaculum. Don't forget it is a fibromuscular band which under the influence of testosterone will pull the testes down into the pouch called as the scrotum. Now understand, this entire process happens by 7th month of intrauterine life. IUL is intrauterine life. But what would happen because of some unforeseen circumstances? The testes did not come down. The testes were formed. This is still a male child, but the testes did not come down into the scrotum. Such a condition will be called as cryptorchidism, also known as the hidden testes disease. Okay, crypto means hidden, or chiaris refers to the testes. So cryptorchidism literally translates into the hidden testes disease. Simple, simple, cool. Now, things from the NEET perspective that you need to remember are: testes are oval in shape, the length is 4 to 5 centimeters, width is 2 to 3 centimeters, and the tunica vaginalis is the anterior most part. It is the remnant of peritoneum. But surrounding the testes, the diagram that should have been given is something like this. So if this is the testes is surrounded on all the sides by a structure called as tunica albuginea. Okay, now this tunica albuginea, from this is the anterior, this is the posterior. Okay, from anterior to posterior side starts sending out these fibrous septa, and these septas divide the testes into these partitions called as lobules. Okay, so this thing here is the septa, and between two septa, this space which is formed up is called as the lobule. So from here to here is the lobule. Okay, so I'm just deleting the dots. Now inside each lobule would be a 2 to 3 highly coiled tubes. Now the people of the yesteryears did not know exactly what these tubes did. They thought this is where the semen is made. So they called these 2 to 3 tubes per lobule as, correct, seminiferous tubules. Okay, so these tubes are called as the seminiferous tubules. These seminiferous tubules go backwards and open into another highly coiled structure called as the retitestes. And from retitestes, you get these lot of tubes going outwards. These tubes are called as vasa efferentia. VE refers to vasa efferentia, and vasa efferentia eventually ends in this structure called as the epididymis. Getting it? Epididymis will have its head, its body, and its tail region. Getting it? And from the epididymis will start a long tube, let me use red, which goes up towards the urinary bladder. Okay, so this will be called as the vas deferens. Okay, I hope things are getting clear as far as the male reproductive system is concerned. Now the question is, MCQs what you need to study. Each testis is covered by a dense covering called tunica albuginea. This layer, this black layer will be called as tunica albuginea. The tunica albuginea has made partitions from anterior to posterior side, creating around 250 compartments called as testicular lobule, and in each lobule you will have 1 to 3 highly coiled tubes called as seminiferous tubule, in which sperms will be formed. Okay, not semen, okay, only sperms. Now if you zoom in and look inside, okay, which is the color blue color, okay, now if you zoom inside and you look inside the seminiferous tubule, there will be two main types of cells. The first cell is this pyramid shaped cell. Okay, these pyramid shaped cells are called as the Sertoli cells. They are also called as the nurse cells or the sustentacular cells. The Sertoli cells or the nurse cells or the sustentacular cells, and their job is to provide nourishment. Okay, they are the ones who are protecting the developing sperms. Okay, now to be more precise, these actually form these shelf-like structures. Okay, I'm going a little bit into micro, not so much in detail is necessary, but you can understand what is happening here. And then there are these cells located in between these, on these shells, which are going to form the future sperms. Getting the idea? These sperm forming cells, the future sperm forming cells, are called as spermatogonia. So inside the seminiferous tubule are two types of cells, the male germ cells called as the spermatogonia and the Sertoli cells, right? Each seminiferous tubule, two types of cells. The male germ cells will undergo meiotic division and finally lead to formation of sperms, whereas the Sertoli cells, MCQ, their job is to give nutrition to the germ cells. Now if you notice, even in the diagram that we have made here, this empty space, there's a lot of empty space here, see? Lot of empty space. This is where the blood vessels will be. That layer of blood vessel is called as tunica albuginea. 3 tunics I told you. Only the anterior one. The anterior one is the tunica vaginalis. The outermost anterior one only is tunica vaginalis. It is a remnant of peritoneum. Second one is tunica albuginea, which is made up of collagenous tissue and it is protective. It is the one making the septa, which is creating the lobules in which there are seminiferous tubules. And the third one, which I cannot draw because it is actually a network of blood vessel, it's called as the tunica vasculosa. So the testis has 3 layers. Tunica albuginea, incomplete anteriormost, 360 degree all around tunica albuginea, and the innermost tunica vasculosa. Now, somewhere here, in this space outside the seminiferous tubule would be a cell which was discovered by this amazing scientist called as Leydig, Leydig, and that's why we call these as the interstitial cells or Leydig cells. You people are smart enough, you know the job of Leydig cells. They synthesize and secrete testicular hormone called androgens. Which is the most important androgen? Testosterone. Amazing. Plus, now the bio people have this amazing knack of making things slightly difficult for talking purposes so that others don't understand us. That's one of the drawbacks of science. So they could have said WBCs are present, but just to add weightage or gravitas to the situation, we call immunologically competent cells are also present. Basically, outside the seminiferous tubule, there are WBCs also. Simple. Now, once the seminiferous tubule ends, everything else is accessory. That just helps, like the retitestes, the vasa efferentia, the epididymis, the vas deferens. So, seminiferous tubule will open into retitestes, retitestes will go into vasa efferentia will lead to the head, body and the tail of epididymis. So, this entire paragraph here just explains this process. The epididymis then leads to vas deferens. Okay, the epididymis, where are we? The epididymis leads to vas deferens. This vas deferens will ascend into the abdomen, loop over the urinary bladder. Look here. It ascends into the abdomen, it goes up towards the abdomen, loops over the urinary bladder. Now this is actually the posterior view. So it ascends up, goes behind the urinary bladder. Now I want you to focus here. Observe this gland that I am drawing in red is a gland called as seminal vesicle. It's a gland. It is an exocrine gland, which means it will have its own tube. So this red part is its own tube. The vas deferens coming from here has its own tube, and both of them join together to, can you see, it makes a common tube here. Let's draw with a black thing. This common tube opens into the urethra. That common tube is called as the ejaculatory duct. Exactly what is given here. It receives a duct from seminal vesicle and opens into the urethra is the ejaculatory duct. Simple. Now, so ejaculatory duct will bring the secretion of seminal vesicle sperms, correct? And then that entire thing will go into the urethra, and that's why in human beings the urethra is called as the urinogenital duct. Now if I had to draw this is how I would have drawn. Only on one side I am drawing. This would be the seminal vesicle with its duct. Okay, here comes the vas deferens, and both of them together join and form what is called as the ejaculatory duct. Okay, and ejaculatory duct from both the sides will eventually open onto the urethra as it passes through the penis. Urinogenital duct. Easy enough? I believe things are becoming clearer and easy. This external opening of the urethra will be called as the urethral meatus. Very simple, very easy. I hope you have understood this much. Now, the other part that we might ask you is the external genitalia. Not really significant questions come from here. The penis is the male external genitalia and it is made up of a special tissue which is erectile in function so that the males can have erection. MCQs that you should know extra. When a male does not produce sperm, we call him infertile. But when a male fails to get erection, it is called as impotence. Okay, so impotence and infertility are completely unrelated phenomena. Now, what makes the penis erectile? It's the special tissue. Now, there are three tissues. If I take a section of a penis like this, there will be three tissues, one below here and two tissues would be on the sides. The side tissue together are called as corpora, cavernosa, and the one below are called as corpus spongiosum. Simple. Corpora cavernosa and corpus spongiosum. Easy peasy, cool. Now, the urethra passes through corpus spongiosum, whereas corpora cavernosa is responsible for erections. Okay, and in humans, now the erection is a vascular phenomenon. Vascular phenomena means that more blood rushes to the penis whenever a male gets sexual thought or is aroused. Then what happens is more blood is pumped into the penis, into the corpora cavernosa, and less blood leaves the corpora cavernosa. This creates an imbalance. There is a backlogging of blood inside the penis, which leads to erection. Important, okay? Erection is because of parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, parasympathetic phenomena. So the male will get erection only when there is parasympathetic nerve stimulation. Second important MCQ, actually many MCQs I've been talking about, but important MCQ. In lower animals such as dogs and other animals, they have a bone in their penis, and that bone is called as baculum. Maybe that's where the term boner comes for erections, but in humans there is no bone in their erection. Okay, so please get that in your head. Now, the erection of the penis is very important because that helps deposit the semen inside the female genital tract. It's very important for insemination. And the last thing that you have to remember is that males, the penis, the anterior part of the penis is little dilated. The enlarged part of the penis is called as glans penis, and it is covered by a loose retractile skin called as the foreskin. The scientific term for foreskin is it's called as prepuce. Now, apart from this, the male has a pair of seminal vesicle, a pair of bulbourethral glands. The bulbourethral glands were discovered by this fellow called as Cowper, and hence it is called as the Cowper's gland. Clear? And one single prostrate. So there are seminal vesicle 2 in number, bulbourethral gland 2 in number, and prostrate gland is only 1 in number. Simple. The secretions of seminiferous tubule, which is the sperms, the seminal vesicles, seminiferous tubule, seminal vesicle, prostrate gland, together form the semen. Now, super important. This is super important. The secretions of these glands form the plasma, seminal plasma, which is rich in fructose, which is basically a source of energy for the sperms, calcium, which helps the sperms to move, and certain enzymes which we'll talk about some other time. And the secretions of the bulbourethral gland, they are not considered a part of semen. Their secretions help in lubrication of the penis. Now, once this is done, you will kindly jump directly to this part, gametogenesis. Okay, now what exactly is gametogenesis? The formation of sperms and ovum will be called as gametogenesis. In males, sperms, females, ovums. In males, testes are the site of spermatogenesis, and females, ovaries are the site of oogenesis. That's why they are called as the primary sex organs. They produce gametes. Now, this is how the process starts. A male child is born with Sertoli cells and spermatogonia in their testes, born with them. Nothing happens for the first 10, 12, 13 years. By the time the child reaches puberty, 0 sperms are formed. Then the child hits puberty, the male hits puberty. Then the immature male germ cell start to produce sperms by spermatogenesis. Okay. Now, there are some cells called as the spermatogonia. Single is gonium. They are present on the inside wall of the seminiferous tubule. They undergo mitotic division. So, spermatogonia undergoes mitosis to increase in number. Now, because they are normal cells of our body, they are diploid and they have 46 chromosomes. Then as this multiplication continues, some of the spermatogonia become primary spermatocyte. What I'm trying to get at is this: there are many spermatogonia. The spermatogonia can undergo repeated mitosis. Some of them will become primary spermatocyte. Simple. Understand spermatogonia 2n, spermatocyte 2n. Easy, simple, cool. Now the primary spermatocyte starts undergoing meiosis 1. Now as it undergoes meiosis 1, M1 is meiosis 1, it becomes 2 cells, secondary spermatocyte. And because the first meiotic division is the reduction division, this cell will be haploid. Easy. Then it does meiosis 2, and 2 secondary spermatocyte becomes 4 spermatids. These are also N, haploid. These spermatids, what I just explained is this primary spermatocyte completes first meiotic division, leads to formation of 2 equal haploid cells called secondary spermatocyte, so 23 chromosome, and then the secondary spermatocyte undergoes second meiotic division to produce 4 equal haploid spermatids. The spermatids are not sperms, they don't look like sperms, they are more spherical, they have a big nucleus. Lot of rearrangement has to happen. This process by which the spermatids are transformed into sperms are called as spermiogenesis. So this will eventually give rise to sperms, which will be 4x in number as compared to the primary spermatocyte, and they will be N. Now these sperms they are still embedded into the Sertoli cell. So the sperms, the head of the sperms are still embedded in the Sertoli cells. Finally, the seminiferous, the Sertoli cells will tell the sperms, now your time's done here, please go. That process by which the sperms are released into the seminiferous tubule is called as spermiation. Do not confuse between spermatogenesis, spermiogenesis and spermiation. After sperms are formed, what happens? Spermiation. Simple. This last step is called as spermiogenesis. And this entire process from the germ cell to the sperm cell, from here right up till here, is called as spermatogenesis. I hope things are getting more and more clear. Now understand, it only happens after puberty. Okay, so unlike in females where the division is kind of staggered, here it starts at the age of puberty because of GnRH. GnRH is made by the hypothalamus. Because of GnRH, which is a hypothalamic hormone, there is more LH and FSH. If you recall 11th standard chapter hormonal coordination, we studied LH acting on the Leydig cells and stimulating synthesis and secretion of androgens, and androgens will stimulate the process of spermatogenesis. So what the heck is FSH doing? FSH acts on the Sertoli cells and stimulates only the last step, which is the process of spermiogenesis. Observe, each sperm has a head, a neck, a middle piece and a tail, 4 parts. Simple. Of course, the entire sperm will be covered by a plasma membrane. Look here, acrosome and a haploid nucleus. The acrosome contains lytic enzyme. Now here you will apply your logic. Which organelle did we study in 11th standard chapter cell unit of life that had lytic enzyme? Lysosomes. So acrosome is technically lysosome. So if somebody asks a direct question, what is an acrosome? It's a lysosome. But where is the acrosome derived from? It is derived from the Golgi bodies. Simple. These enzymes in the lysosomes will help in fertilization of ovum. Middle piece has mitochondria, which helps in generation of ATP. That we already know, right? So middle piece is mitochondria for energy purposes, and the tail will be for motility. Now this is super important. A healthy male will ejaculate 2 to 300 million sperms during each coitus. But if he has to be fertile, at least 60% should have normal shape and size, and at least 40% should show vigorous motility. Clear? Now, so the sperms were made in the seminiferous tubule, a spermiation happened, right? And after spermiation, the sperms were released in the seminiferous tubule. Then they are transported by the accessory ducts. Then the secretion of epididymis comes, and the secretion of vas deferens, seminal vesicle, prostrate. All of them help in the maturation and motility of sperms. Clear? The seminal plasma plus the sperm is equal to semen. And you want to have all the organs working properly, all the glands working properly, you need male hormones called as androgens. On day number 1, you only do this much. Go through this. See this video one more time if you have to. Once you're done, mark down all the points. Repeat it one more time if needed. Be 100% sure that you have understood and be done with it. We meet tomorrow with video number 2, where we talk about the female reproductive tract. Till then, take care, keep studying and keep rocking. Bye-bye.